Hey everybody, and welcome back to Pixelists Podcast, a podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Will, that's Blake, and today we're talking our bread and butter, a little Critical Role episode 75. Crazy that we're 3/4 of the way to 100 already.
And possibly over halfway through with the campaign.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I would venture to guess. I mean, who knows what could happen, but yeah, I would say probably in the second half for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Things are getting spicy. Things are heating up. Would be a little better
nice.
given the events of this episode, maybe.
A nice little reference to the early parts of the campaign.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. That was clearly this episode. So if you're watching this for the first time, you can expect this awkwardness to only get worse as we get deeper into this conversation. And yeah, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, welcome to our little chat area about the episode. We do cover a lot of nerdy stuff like Critical Role. We do have a Discord, by the way. Mentioning this because there has been some chatter on the Critical Role subreddit about, people get a little catty in the Twitch chat, people being a little toxic on the subreddit. And if you want a positive place to talk about all things Critical Role, D&D, whatever, the case may be, you can join our Discord. We do have a watch party on every Thursday with the Critical Role episode. And everybody's welcome to that, whether you're a new critter or an old school critter. And then we also just somewhat finished our rewatch of Calamity this past Sunday. And I think we're doing the campaign or the four shot wrap up this Sunday.
Yes,
right?
we wanted to keep the party going. So this Sunday we're going to be watching the campaign wrap up together, and we'll be talking about it this Sunday probably, but also just in general in the Discord about what our next watch party should be, because it was so much fun. I know a lot of people are wanting to keep the ball rolling as well. So if you got any ideas, or if you just want to participate,
Yeah, and we were throwing out some really fun ideas for one shots to watch in the Discord. A lot of people sometimes miss one shots just because it's a lot of times they're on an off week, or I know for me, I got into Critical Role later, so I missed a lot of one shots. But could be a great opportunity to see some of those one shots you might have missed.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun. So yeah, come into the fold, come join us over on Discord. Always a lot going on. And yeah, to kind of sort of segue with what you said there, the subreddit, man. I don't often go there. But recently I went because somebody in our Discord even pointed out that people were looking for a place to come talk about it. So I went in there to plug the Discord. There's just so much negativity, man. And I don't.
That's also just Reddit, though.
Yeah, that's true. And so it's probably not worth really getting into about it. But some people, man. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I digress.
Yeah. Anything else?
Other announcements.
Worlds Beyond Number coming back soon. Not quite
Very
back
soon.
yet.
Yeah.
I did see today. I haven't listened to it yet. And this might be Patreon only, so forgive me if it is, and I'm, if anyone's excited for it and they're not a patron, whoops. But I did notice they announced today, they released a fireside chat, if you will, that is all about Taylor and how he produces the music and makes the episodes. So I'm pretty excited to check that out. But also right before that, I think last week, they released a public, so everyone, even if you're not a patron, an episode where they talk about the entire first arc, the whole cast. So kind of like a fireside chat for everything. But yeah, that comes back soon. Super excited to get back into that.
Yeah, and if you guys don't, just in case you don't know what we're talking about, Worlds Beyond Number is, more specifically, The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One is an audio-only adventure, D&D adventure, with basically a few of the cast members from Dimension 20. But speaking of our Calamity rewatch, if you really enjoyed Brennan or Abria or Lou or Erica Ishii, they are all the cast of this audio adventure, and it's just a very well done D&D adventure, and the episodes are very palatable. They're about an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour each. So
Yeah.
It's not too late to catch up. And we did just finish the first season, first arc. So perfect time to catch up.
Yeah. And listen, all you Critical Role people that are watching this right now, why are you not watching that? Listening, rather. It's so good. You will not regret it.
Very
And
good.
it'll give us another thing as a community to nerd out over. So you should definitely be checking it out.
Yeah.
And finally, one other thing is Loki. Season 2 has started. It's what the Pixels podcast started with. It was our first ever discussion was on Loki season 1. So Blake and I are really excited and enjoying season 2 so far. Episode 2 just aired this past week. We haven't talked about it yet, but that'll probably be the next thing that comes out from us after this. So yeah, for those of you that are watching that, hop on over and join us for that journey. I'm excited to talk to you about episode 2, by the way.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But yeah, anything else?
I think we're ready to rock.
Alrighty.
Oh.
Well, for I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'll spare everybody. For anybody that's new here, what we like to do is recap the episodes before diving in proper. And we'll cut that out and host it separately on YouTube for your viewing convenience. So if you happen to find yourself just on the recap, but you want to hear our full thoughts and discussion, we will be linking that in the description box below. But without further ado, let's dive into Critical Role episode 75. And I wrote the title down and I can't.
An Ancient Flame.
Thank you, my friend. But I believe you are the first half.
I was actually wondering if you were going to just keep going.
That's why I started laughing before I launched into it. Because I was like, he's probably going to think that I think I'm first half. Anyway.
No, yeah. So we have a great process for this. So yeah, picking up on this episode, episode 75, An Ancient Flame. Previous episode, they went to evon'travir, the Tree of Atrophy, got some really cool lore bits, and then evon'travir realized an invisible, arcane, scrying orb that was spying on them and quickly shuttered them off to basically this fiery mountain to retrieve the shard of Raushan, one of the Titans, the Emperor of, or excuse me, Empress of Fire. No, Emperor of Fire, Empress of Fire. Raushan is one and Kamort's the other one, but I can't remember all the stuff.
I think Fire's Impress, but I'm confused, right. So I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, it's Raushan's fragment though.
Right.
And they find themselves on one of the islands in the Shattered Teeth on essentially this snowy mountaintop with a cave in the distance. They make their way to the cave. The snow is kind of melted in the cavern entrance, and they realize this is probably where we're going to get this shard. Now, going deeper into the cavern, they do find essentially it's like going caving. They find a tunnel that seems to be like collapsed, not by like an earthquake, but for some reason there's a collapsed tunnel. And they decide, you know what, if we can just barely wiggle our way through, we can maybe get to the bottom of wherever this goes. Now, as they do go in, they do find what seems to be like a rock that's blocking the passage. Orem kind of like wiggles with it and messes with it and realizes it is the charred skull of an orc who seemingly was traveling back up through the cave and got dislodged and met a very grim end. They travel farther through. They get to a point where the party actually splits up. Imogen, Orem, and F.C.G decide to go ahead and sort of track on first. Matt asks each player, are you going head first or feet first? Which, I don't know why, it's such a tense question. And remember, F.C.G is a robot. So F.C.G's like, yeah, I'll go feet first. And they all have to do basically checks to see how well they can navigate through. Imogen actually gets her ankle caught in a rock. She tries to shocking grasp to break it free, isn't able to do it. And then I think maybe Laudna like climbed up and like helped knock it free, or I honestly don't quite remember, but ultimately she's able to get it free. And the party basically, this front half, basically the tunnel opens up into this cavern with bones, armor, gold, all these random things, and there's just a layer of char on everything. And they're kind of looking around like, okay, it seems like a dead end. And then they start to notice that the floor is like this igneous rock. It's like this certain kind of stone, or maybe he described it as porous. I don't remember, but a certain kind of stone that's different from the walls. And they realize that the ground is basically a ground that has developed over time from something very hot underneath. Like all the ash and char have kind of created this layer that they now stand on. So they decide, you know what should we do? Let's just, dig a hole and see what's below us. But there's a conversation on like, well, if we dig a hole, is there going to be like an eruption of lava that's going to kill all of us? Because they can't easily get out. I will say it's around this time, the back half party, they wiggle their way through, not without Laudna also getting stuck herself. Fern is going to turn into, I think, a bat while they are in this cavern. And they ultimately do break open this hole to reveal another cavern beneath the one that they're in now that has a big pool of lava in it. Also, they note these little, Matt describes them as like Jack Skellington elves that are made of like stone and have like fiery eyes. They're like 2 feet tall, and there's about a dozen of them in this cavern kind of peeking up, seeing what they're doing. They travel down into this cavern and basically begin to talk to these creatures. I think it's F.C.G cast tongues on maybe Fern. I can't remember. They realize that these creatures, which they call Doompa Loompas, these creatures don't speak primordial. And in fact, they don't have a language that anyone in the party understands. Matt actually mentions the language later in the episode. I don't know if you remember what it was. He asked if someone know this language, but no one did.
Write it down.
But they come to find out that these are very cute creatures that, as they're having the conversation, they're literally seeing like plumes of fire come up from the lava pool near them, and the plume of lava basically shaping into a new creature and like being born, while other ones are like falling over dead. And they surmise that these creatures have very short lifespans. And in fact, they begin speaking to the self-proclaimed elder who became the elder right after they just watched the elder basically burn out. And they're very cute. They're harmless. They're kind of like, this is where we are. And they do ask questions like, has anyone been here before? And they say something like, I think someone has come before. But they eventually ask about Raushan. They're like, do you know Raushan? And they're like, yes, the creator. And they motion over to this like lava pool around them. So they're pretty clear that the shard they're looking for is in this pool. And in typical like peak D&D fashion, I don't know what Matt envisioned them to do, but Ashton's like, yeah, I'm going to jump in there. I'm just going to jump in, dive down, go get that shard. And they're kind of like, is this the right idea? And pretty much the party as a whole, they know resurrection is not possible, but they're all like, see you later, Ashton. I think Laudna's like, hey, you're probably dead. It's been nice knowing you. Like, see you later. Imogen does cast Fly on him so that he can make it to the center of the pool more easily. And he just dunks down into the lava pool, immediately taking 8d6 or 8d10.
I think it's 8d10, yeah.
Of fire damage. I can't see anything. Note also, functionally, his clothes are all melting off. And they go to the bottom of the lava pool where they find this large shard, does a strength check, is unsuccessful, can't get the shard free, takes another round of fire damage. Fern then is going to basically go and jump in to try to help, also takes fire damage, and basically uses her Stonky's ring, a throwback to EXU Season 1, which I love those little details, to basically like loosen it enough for Ashton to finally, I think it was like a 25, get it free, and holds it up above the pool in like a very like Terminator, like I got it type style. They get out of the pool, and yeah, I mean, oddly enough, Ashton was like, I don't need healing, I'm fine. Even though F.C.G is like, you seem pretty hurt. But they look over this shard, and actually Ashton's holding it, and the whole time he's holding it, it's burning his hands. Every round, taking more fire damage. And they decide, is it breakable? Like, what should we do with it? Hands it over to Fern. Like, maybe Fern should hold it. It burns Fern's hands. Fern's like, maybe not. Gives it back to Ashton. And then Ashton holds it to their chest and actually gets like a vision in their mind that essentially, we'll talk about it more in the episode, but kind of gives like an image of the last moments of Raushan before being basically disassembled by Laren, a calamity mention, by the way, and ultimately decides, you know what, I don't think this is for me, but it is for me. I'm honestly not sure. Around this time, Matt describes 5 figures seemingly like teleporting, like dropping in on the opposite side of the pool. It is some Ruby Vanguard, I think a couple of Ray Laurens, including one that Matt describes as a juggernaut, and seemingly Ludinus Deleth. Imogen immediately is going to do telekinesis to whip up some lava, splash it in their face, and we go to break as combat begins. So,
yikes!
You want to take it from there?
Yes, sir. And I did look it up while you were going there. Raushan is the Emperor. Kamort is the Empress.
Thank you.
So yeah. Okay, so we pick up from break with combat basically starting. So they quickly resolve this telekinetic lava shove that Imogen does, and we roll initiative. The party does notice, though, there is a white gem in Ludinus's forehead that they have not seen before. So as always with combat, just going to try to hit the highlights here. Things kick off with Imogen using telekinesis to grab the smaller Ray Lauren with telekinesis and just shoves them underneath the lava. Such a cool move. Orem actually runs up and just slashes this same one and kills it. Like, this is one of the first things that happens. They just take that guy completely off the board. Ludinus actually telekinetically grabs Fern in the same way and starts like pulling her toward him. So she is like hovering over the lava as this happens. The Juggernaut Ray Laura kind of rushes in and is engaging with Orem. Meanwhile, Chet runs over and grabs the shard from Ashton and places it inside the bag of holding before going invisible. The party is kind of just unsure what to do during this whole thing. F.C.G is like, we need to get out of here. And again, F.C.G is the one that has the staff right now. Right. So F.C.G is kind of the one that would be in charge of getting them out of there with teleport. So they're trying to do that, but everyone is kind of split up right now. And, you know, the least of which is Fern, who is currently, you know, held by Ludinus. So there's kind of some chaos over like what exactly they should be doing, but combat continues. Fern, still held, can cast spells. So she casts a wall of stone around Ludinus to block his line of sight in an attempt that maybe that would make him have to drop the telekinesis. But it does not. It still holds. So the rest of the crew basically is just dealing damage to the Juggernaut Ray Laura and just doing what they can. When it gets back to Orem's turn, he runs up and does some pushing attacks on the Juggernaut to push them back toward the lava, and successfully does so. But then he action surges to get all of his attacks back again and does it again to like fully submerge them in the lava. And between that and the 6 different attacks, Orem gets the how do you want to do this on this huge guy. Really awesome moment. So on Ludinus's next turn, he basically says that like, how rude of you all to not like talk with me. Like, we just came to talk, but you know, since that's not how things are going, you know, implying he's going to have to do something else now. So he uses Quicken spell to cast Dimension Door and is like, let's go just you and I talk somewhere else, like referring to Fern. And he begins pulling her towards this Dimension Door. So everyone starts to freak out because they're like, oh, we cannot let him get out of here with Fern. So they're all trying to do whatever they can to stop this. And for most of them, that's just dealing damage to him and hoping that they can break his concentration. Fern casts Wall of Fire to do this, but Ludinus counterspells it with the Nat 20. So it fizzles out. Laudna summons her Hound of Ill Omen again to attack. It does, and it actually does knock Ludinus prone, but he maintains concentration. And one of the other bad guy guards, not the Ray Lauren, comes over and actually kills the Hound and, you know, protects Ludinus. So combat continues. Ashton's hitting Ludinus. Everyone's hitting him, but he's maintaining concentration until finally Imogen lightning bolts and kills this guard that just ran over to help him, and also makes Ludinus drop his concentration. So at this point, Ludinus says, it's a shame, but a lesson can still be learned here. And he begins to cast a 9th level spell. Marisha goes to counterspell it, but it's 9th level. So we're told she will need, I think it's a 19, which means she'll need a 14 or higher on the dice to be successful. And she rolls a 14 exactly. So Ludinus then goes to counterspell her counterspell, and Matt is ruling it that it's got to be a DC 13, and he only hits a 12, so he fails to counterspell the counterspell. So then Ludinus says, well, at the very least, I have more information. And then he just walks into the lava pool and like kind of belly flops into it, and just kind of disintegrates into snow, as Matt describes it. Fern quickly like digs through his like lava melty form to grab the opal that was in his forehead, and they also grab his robes, which seem to not burn. Combat is over at this point. All the other little minions had been taken care of. So they loot everybody. I think they get like 300 something gold, a couple of random weapons. And they're like, okay, what do we do now? And they ultimately decide, well, we're obviously got to get out of here, and our best bet is probably to go to Whitestone to meet up with Imahara Joe and hopefully check in with Timothy Chalamet. So they gather up. F.C.G teleports them. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention was Ludinus clocks the fact that F.C.G has his staff during the combat. He's like, oh, you guys have been crying. Were you going to add something as well?
A detail that I forgot, they're going back to Whitestone because Matt helps them as they were looking at the shard previously. They remembered they had the vest that seemingly was able to consume an item.
Right. So they're going to Whitestone to get Imahara Joe, who has been working on that harness, to hopefully utilize for this shard. So they gather up. F.C.G teleports them, and Matt says we will resolve the teleport, with the solstice funkiness going on, if hopefully everything goes all right, but all that will be resolved in the next episode. So that is where this one ends. Once again, episode 75 of Critical Role Campaign 3, An Ancient Flame. And of course, if you want to hear our full discussion and you are just on our recap video, it will be linked down below. All right.
Great job, my friend.
Yeah, you too.
Oh, the adventure in the Shattered Teeth comes to an end.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah.
As far as we know.
True. I guess the teleport could go mad wrong, but most
30
likely
later, we have to get out of here. Oh man. All right. So where to start today?
I mean, that's a good question. The first half for me was just, I don't know, like I wouldn't call myself like a claustrophobic person. Maybe I am. But I was feeling like the ick, like as that was happening, just imagining them all like trapped in that tiny tiny cavern. Like I mentioned this during the Discord. I don't know if anybody, I don't remember if anyone knew what I was talking about, but I don't know if you will know what I'm talking about. There was like a creepypasta, I guess is the right word for it, but I think it was even before that was like a coined term, just like early internet days, where there was like this story of this caver guy. Is this pinging any bells for you?
I know a popular story about a caving guy, but I don't know what you're about to say.
Well, so I've read one that's like, there's like a true story that I'm familiar with where like a guy gets stuck and like he just dies because there's nothing they can do about it. So there's that.
Yeah, that's the story that I know of.
Okay. So, I mean, which is awful. And it's worse than this other one because this other one's not real, at least I hope. But I just remember in like the early days of the internet reading like this like terrifying story about this guy in a cave. And so just both of those things were like also influencing as I was like imagining all this, and was not fun. But I thought it was a really cool, like tonal, like kind of placemat for like what was happening and getting down to that cavern. It was really cool, like just setting material. I don't know. But what did you think of, like, I don't know. Are you claustrophobic or was it messing with you? It
reminded me of going caving as a kid at like some random thing. I don't know how I got roped into this, but we had a guy who got stuck, like a bigger guy who got stuck.
Oh my God.
I mean, like because like when you go caving, like it's literally this episode, like it's not a tunnel. You're not like walking down like here's the path. Like
Right.
it's like you're finding like, oh, here's the way through, and like you're squeezing through. And yeah, there was a guy who got stuck. He eventually got out. Like we got him out by like really like pushing on this guy. But it reminded me of that experience. And then also, I guess when Imogen got her ankle stuck, the thing that's terrifying about that kind of stuff is when you get stuck, but you don't have the range of motion. Like you're not like walking and your ankle stuck and you can just bend down. Like your body is contorted or twisted or like around a rock and you feel something stuck and you can't quite, like that's really the terrifying part of it.
You can't do anything about it.
And,
why do people do that, man?
I know, man.
People are insane.
These adrenaline junkies blow my mind. So
go skydiving or something, like, ugh.
Or hey fam, you guys listening? This is you, or just do nothing. Sit at home. There's no shame in that. Don't let anybody judge you for being a homebody.
That's right.
What'd you do on Friday night? I watched TV for 3 hours. I feel like this is like a Tim Robinson skit or something.
But yeah, man, that was. I know a lot of people were feeling the same way, but it was just like, ew.
Yeah. I personally am kind of a junkie for like. You mentioned the ick, like the atmospheric, just unsettling DMing, where you're just like, oh, I don't know. It just makes it more, I'll say palatable. That's not the right word. It's.
I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah, there's something about it that's like very, like you could put yourself there. I mean, I guess it's just good storytelling, honestly.
Yeah, which I thought it was a cool encounter that was not like an encounter.
Yes.
Like it was just a cool, like that could have easily been like, okay, yeah, you gotta, it could have just been a one sentence. Yeah, you travel down to the heart of the chamber,
right.
But instead it was just like really cool, like, segment. That also a little bit kind of chewed up some player resources, like in terms of like being an encounter, like their few spells were cast and,
I think Matt even was like, he was like, yeah, burn your spells. Sure. It's great for me.
Yeah. So like, for you DMs out there, sometimes, especially with, 7 PCs that are starting to get higher level, you have to get more creative with your encounters unless you're going to throw like 500 enemies at them, So I just thought this was kind of a cool creative way to kind of milk some of those resources.
And that is a really interesting insight. I would say that's something that I'm not great at, only because like you don't want to force them to use resources, but you also, it's like you said, like you don't want players to hoard their resources to where, okay, you have 12 spell slots. Here's an encounter, and another guy shows up. It's. I think you make a really great point about DMing according to player resources. I personally, I don't think I have the experience for that, but
I don't either. But yeah, and then kind of to offset that, like, ick, as we've been calling it, I loved the little gremlin guys. Those guys were great.
I loved, it's just another feather in my hat for all the players evil, because they had the question of like, if we take this shard, is this gonna, and they all died after they took the shard.
Well, I mean, they had to take the shard.
Did they, Will?
There's more important things happening.
Oh, okay. I'm not surprised to hear you say that.
But that was sad. They were,
they stomped out an entire ecosystem that localized to the cave, but
they did.
Still,
they did. I mean, they were pretty smart. Like all things considered, for how short their lifespans were, like very intelligent.
Yeah.
I am curious how long their lifespans are, though. I mean, they seem pretty short.
Yeah.
But we do know, at least through the tales passed down, and I don't know if, I don't remember exactly how it was phrased, but when they were asking, like, have you seen people before? They mentioned the previous elder had, I think.
Right.
But so I don't know if that means the previous elder, maybe, like, were they the ones that had that literal firsthand experience, or had it been passed down? Because if it's the former, then it couldn't have been that long ago that they saw somebody, and if so, who was down there?
Yeah, let's see here. Let's see if I can, if they have it on crit roll stats, what was exactly asked.
I was
there
very
was a
curious about that.
conversation. There was a conversation about the magma will go boom, which maybe that was what Matt kind of intended them to play around with. Others have come angering the spark, which then led to the boom. So I'm very curious. Yeah, curious what that is. I wonder.
Yeah, because it seems like, okay, and not that this is worth going too far deep on, because it's probably not important, and it may not even be the case. But if somebody was there recent enough for that elder that died to have seen them, it presumably wasn't Ludinus, because from the way things played out here, it seems like Ludinus only figured out about all this stuff because of Bell's Hells and the fact that they were scrying on them. So who was here? Maybe it's just a cool little, like, not just a cool little detail that's not really intense world building to, like, be pride.
I think their lives are longer than we're thinking it is. I think we're hyper focused on the shortness because Sam made a joke about maybe they're like flies, like they die in like a day or two. But just like thinking about the formation of like that soot layer that made like kind of the fake ground above them, like it had to have been long enough ago where they would have been able to see the gremlins or see each other.
True.
So I mean, I'm not saying their lifespan's 10 years, but
it just
but you do wonder who did come and to what purpose. Maybe the people who owned the brass ring that they found.
Yeah, so I was gonna say the half orc that had the ring. Yeah, that was my best guess as well. It was now you mentioned, like, you wonder what Matt's original idea was for how they might get that thing, and the fact that it went boom when it like got angry kind of was the indication. I too was wondering that, because we did see that like it calmed down when Ashton got close to it.
Yeah.
So I wonder if, like, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I wonder, like, I don't think Matt, with most puzzle encounters, it's best not to have like a one way you envision for it to be solved, because your players probably aren't gonna, everyone's different. The whole point is to have like fun, creative solutions, right? But I am curious, like, if Matt just envisioned them diving straight in and going for it, or like what they might do.
I think every good DM wants to give players enough breadcrumbs to make an educated guess on like maybe the path of least resistance, and then you also like you have like some backup plans for like what they might do instead. So I think Matt probably had this as like option D, like maybe they're just going to jump in,
Yeah.
I mean, he had the fire damage on hand, so yeah, I'm very curious what he intended's not the right word, but what he thought might happen.
Yeah.
And maybe he'll table that for a future session.
Yeah. Which, again, not that I want to spend time on this, but like I mentioned earlier, when I dove into the dredges of Reddit, so much complaining, so much negativity. A lot of it, which I didn't stay there long, but a lot of it was about like how Matt put on the kitty gloves with the llama damage. Like, it should have been so much more damage that they took. And it's just stuff like that. It's just like, okay, why does that even bother you? And first of all, just because, and I don't even know rules is written, like what necessarily is the case. Like Matt maybe wasn't even doing anything off rules, but clearly some people thought he was. But just to combat those people that definitely aren't even listening right now, that's just like, why let that get to you? This is their story that they're telling. And on top of that, there even was the explicit mention of the bubbling and stuff calming down in the presence of Ashton. So if you need some reason why maybe there was less damage, there you go.
I mean, let me look up character sheet real quick. Let's see here. Ashton. I mean, Ashton has 120 health. So I mean, every tech is doing basically a fourth of his life, which fortunately was reduced a little bit. So I mean, it's not like it wasn't doing damage.
Right.
The guy had at most 4 rounds before he was dead. So like, but like getting on your point, and I don't know if we probably don't want to segue to this yet, but I did see some chatter about Matt making a mistake on the counterspell rules, where Laudna counterspell, that roll was correct, but Lewdness's reaction counterspell should not have been a roll. It should have just worked.
Yeah.
Because it was on a 3rd level spell. And Matt had them roll. And there was, I did see some hubbub about that. And, I think this is interesting because I think, just to kind of echo what you said, I'm trying to say this like as objective as possible without sounding silly. It's not unlike the end of Calamity, episode 4, where Brennan made a decision on how Sarah would be able to, I think he was given a second reaction to attack Vespin. Sorry, these are all spoilers. I guess that's the biggest spoiler I'll say. And it affected the outcome of what was happening, right? And so people really rules lord that, and that shouldn't be right. And like, you guys have to remember, at the end of the day, it is only solely about the player's enjoyment. And as the DM, you can literally do whatever you want, and it's no one's business. And I think, just to echo you, man, if this bothered you and you made a thread on Reddit about it, it is kind of like, why? It's like, why do you care how much fire damage it did?
Yeah.
Like, what's up with the criticism? Like, what's up with well, why did Matt do it that way? Could Matt have made a mistake? Sure. Did Matt just want to do it that way? Possibly. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. Neither one matters. Right. You know, it's so interesting. I think you said it so well. It's like, why? Like, why are you doing this? But
it's like, why are you watching the show? Like, because it's not about like the pristine presentation of these rules. Like, that's not what it's about, like
it's not. And doesn't the first chapter, or like the first intro of the PHB, doesn't it say like, these are a guideline or something? Or like, and you can know, like, anytime my players play with me, I am going to flex and homebrew stuff constantly, because I'm always thinking about what's going to create the funnest experience for a player. And so if one of my players is like, it's a counterspell versus a counterspell, and I see their face is lit up and excited and they're so energized, you better believe I'm going to put that to a roll to make this epic moment. And I'm going to do it in front of the board, which Matt did, by the way. He did it in front of the board. I'm going to do it in front of the board to create this epic moment that they can all be enjoying together, rather than he actually would have just countered. Anyway, so what are you guys doing next? And it's like flat, so it's weird, man. It's weird how people get so, I don't know how to express
I don't either.
I'm on a soapbox, but
hey, I preach, I don't get it. I just don't understand why those types of people watch the show, like, if you're going to like nitpick something so obtuse like that. But like you just said, like, whether Matt in the moment forgot how the rules worked or he did it intentionally, speaking to the counterspell, I think is irrelevant. But either way, it made for the coolest moment of the whole episode. That like, that's what, in an episode where we have people dive into lava and like heroically rescue this like monumentally important artifact, that wasn't even the coolest or like most moment people remember from this episode. It'll be the counterspell that somehow worked with the perfect roll, and then that succeeded on not getting counterspelled with another perfect roll. So like that was like such an awesome moment.
And not a counterspell on like, Scorching Ray, a counterspell on a 9th level. Like, as soon as the mention of 9th level spell happened, I was like, and so, I mean, yeah, you're right. Epic moments. So, amazing. And also interesting. I mean, mistake or not, talking about the Ludinous simulacrum, we've seen Autohan create copies of herself as well. I mean, this could be a mechanic that we see more of. I mean, we could find ourselves in an encounter with multiple Ludinuses, and so it could even be that like the counterspell reaction not instantly working is an element of this homebrewed simulacrum. It doesn't have the full, potency of its magic. I mean, it could be anything, honestly.
Yeah, it could be any number of things. I will, not that you were saying this, but just I will say that the Odahan like shadows are like a different thing than this simulacrum. Like, that is a wizard spell.
Right.
But yeah, I don't want to, spend too much time on the negative Nancy's, but like, kind of while we're here, one other thing that I will throw into this mix is that people were complaining not only about the lava, not only about the counterspell thing, but also just in general the encounter. They were like, Ludinus didn't do anything the whole time, and like no, like the Raylorans didn't do anything, like nobody did anything. And to that I say, well, first and foremost, Ludinus showed up saying like, I came to talk, like, you know, and not that like they were all going to get honky dory and happily ever after, but like that was literally said. So the intentions were clearly not from the jump to just wipe them off the face of the planet. Like he wanted to treat with them for one reason or another. So that would be the first reason he didn't just, you know, drop a meteor on them from round one. Second, he grabbed Fern, and like that was, we don't know what his intentions are, but then he was going to leave with her, so there seems to be some motivation there. But then the Raylorans and stuff not doing anything, it's because they got freaking wrecked immediately. Like it's not because Matt just like had them hold their action and like, you know, sit in the corner. I don't know, just of course people are going to find things to complain about and I shouldn't waste my breath on them, but it's just ridiculous to me.
I understand that point. I mean, like I thought the combat was pretty flat. Like I didn't feel like the stakes were really there, but like you have to think about a core value of Critical Role is the players at the table having fun. Like it's that first, and then it's a show second, even though we desperately want it to be that reversed. And, you know, like, it's so interesting. I can't remember who said this. Maybe it was Brennan. I don't know who made this comment, or maybe it was like you, or I don't know who said it, but there was something about like, it's okay to have an encounter where your players just like absolutely demolish and wreck the bad guys. Like not every encounter needs to be like a deadly encounter, frankly, because it's fun to feel powerful. And, you know, at the end of the day, as combat was ending, I was feeling like I was like, yeah, okay, that was okay combat, I guess. And then Laura Bailey immediately, I think it was Laura, as combat was ending, she goes, guys, that was so much fun. Like what other, for me, that's like book closed, done deal. Like that right there is enough for me. The players had a freaking awesome time. Did you hear them like chatting and like I think Orem or Liam was like, which I didn't fully get this reference, but he was like, this person's 10 times older than Trent. Like understand the stakes here.
Yeah.
Like you could feel the energy, and like at the end of the day, that's literally all that matters. And so, you know, my random musings about like how deadly or intriguing it was is really insignificant. I'm just like, they had an awesome time, and that means it was a great encounter.
Yeah. And I mean, me personally, I thought the stakes were there because one, we don't know, like there was this whole tension of like, are they going to be able to get out of this? They're not all together. What's happening with Fern? And then it felt like Fern was going to get taken away, and that had me on the edge of my seat. And then my man was casting a 9th level spell. So like, just because they ended up not really taking any damage does not mean they like weren't potentially going to. I know people are talking about what they thought that 9th level spell was. And I know a lot of people think it might be Weird, which is the name of the spell.
I think that's
which if he casts that and like that goes off, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Especially considering all the damage, you know, Fern and Ashton had already taken.
Yeah, I think it was Weird, right? Yeah.
Which I guess I'll read it for those of you that aren't familiar, that are wondering what we're talking about. So it's a 9th level spell. It hits an area of effect, and it draws on the deepest fears of a group of creatures. You create illusory creatures in their minds, visible only to them. They must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed, they become frightened, and this illusion calls on their deepest fears, manifesting their worst nightmares as an implacable threat. At the end of each of their turns, they have to make a save or else take 4d10 psychic. So not just 4d10 one time for the rest of their turns until they make the save, 4d10. And they're frightened, which means they can't like move closer to him or Fern in that case. Yeah, I don't think that was going to be good for them. Also, I would have really loved to see Matt wax poetic on what each of their deepest fears were, like if this was to happen. Plus, who knows if they would have full agency over their turns under this type of effect. Not that Matt would like strip them of anything, but like if you're literally witnessing your worst fear, you probably aren't going to make, the best, most appropriate decision in combat. Anyway, I thought the stakes were there. I thought it was a really interesting combat, and not to sort of move away from this. I'm very curious what Ludinus wanted, because he didn't see. No, so if you have more to say, I don't want to. Okay, because he came and said he wanted to talk. Which again, I'm not saying they were gonna kumbaya and leave all friends, but I do believe him that it wasn't just showing up to kill them from the jump. So I just wonder what he was doing, because it also seemed like he wasn't very interested in the shard.
Shard. Yeah.
I mean, maybe, like you would think that, like, unless for some reason he thought Fern had it, but like, why would he think that? So,
and why Fern?
Yeah. Why Fern? So
because Fern was just the closest. She was on the edge of the battle map. So maybe
was he just taking her hostage? I don't know. But it is I don't know what to make of his motives, plus the fact that he seemingly, I don't know if this is fair to say or not, but he seemingly didn't care about the shard, right? Nor did he know about it. He might have like known about it, but not enough to care, because it seems like he only found out this stuff through scrying on them recently. Like, when clearly that was him scrying when they were talking to evon'travir. So shows up, doesn't care about the shard, wants to talk to them. Maybe it's because, again, since listening to evon'travir, he knows that like the tree wants him dead. The tree told them to kill him, basically. Maybe he's coming to be like, yo, hear me out. I don't know.
Tree's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't say tree. It shouldn't say he should be killed. He said he should be stopped, which
true
probably means,
true.
but still.
So
I think the scariest thing is that he's aware of them. Like, that's been a question mark for me, is like, does he even know that Bell's Hells, like, are they that mangy group that tried to stop him at the excavation site, or is he aware of them? And seems like the answer is that he's not only aware, but is scrying actively on them. To what ends, I don't know. It's very interesting that, like you said, like, he didn't seem intent on taking the shard, but was just kind of like, okay, I got some info.
Yeah.
It's like, what info did you get?
What do you want, old man?
Ashton was naked,
True.
I mean,
true.
When they animate it, I'm just so curious. Like, party in the bottom half, combat scene.
Probably one of those things where like his hammer's always like blocking it or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just, and this is something we talked about, I think, last episode when we were talking about the tree, saying he should be stopped. But then the tree also talking about how like Bell's Hells will be primed to make this decision on the gods, which kind of, how do you untether that from Ludinus? Because like presumably if you stop Ludinus, then that question is solved. So I'm wondering if like, this is again something we've talked about, but especially knowing now like how the harness works and that like Bell's Hells are gonna like absorb the shards, could Ludinus's real plan be to absorb Predathos, ascend, even if it's not to like literally ascend to godhood, if he's just going to absorb that power, like that's what needs to be stopped. But then so if you do stop him becoming Predathos, you still need to make the decision on, should Predathos be freed and should, blah,
right.
blah, blah. So yeah, I don't know.
You do want, I like that line of thinking, because for me, I keep coming back to the fact that why doesn't he have this broken vest anymore? Is it because it was irreparable for him, or does he have, version 2.0?
Yeah.
For Predathos. And I'm expecting to see more of like the themes of the Age of Arcanum, of like hubris and cloud and ego. And, I really do feel like it's very Die Hard 3, where like the bad guy has like a very, noble reason for what they're doing. but at the end of the day, it's just a bank heist, you know?
Yeah.
And so for him, I'm trying to free the humanity, but really it's about power and, sticking it to the gods and, what
Right.
have you. So,
Yeah. So I don't
um,
know where I'm landing, but I'm very
yeah.
curious.
So the party's heading back to Whitestone, which is exciting.
Yep.
Um, presumably for a fixed vest. This will be the last episode of the month coming up.
And it is the costume episode. I don't know if you saw, but
Okay.
they released a photo that you can see their costumes. And
Okay.
I guess I won't say anything in case somebody doesn't want that to be spoiled, but it looks good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Which it's funny because last year for Halloween, when they were in costume, they were in Whitestone, and now they're going to be there again.
That is funny. What else? Anything else you want to talk about?
I did want to talk about um who is going to be getting this shard, because
I'm Team Fern.
I think I'm Team Fern as well, but I don't really know where they landed. It seemed like and probably intentionally because Matt doesn't want to like make the decision for them. But like whenever Ashton was trying to get like a vision, it seemed to like be pretty ambiguous, but also like it's you if you want it to be type of thing. But
Mhm.
I don't know. And we know that Ashton already has Comort's shard, but do you think there's
Mhm.
still some sort of process that needs to happen, like with the vest, even though like the shard's already in him, or
I,
is that one done already?
I don't think, well, interestingly enough, Matt talked about the power laying dormant, and I didn't know if that meant the fire shard or the shard inside of him.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at the detail, how it was described. Um, okay, I think it looks like that was the shard that they just got. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I guess presumably the shard inside of him is as he levels up and gets like the new powers, maybe that's a good
True.
like lore reason for it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. I
But yeah, I
just
think I'm Team Fern though. It just kind of makes sense to me.
I do. I think it makes sense as well. Um, I'm just so curious, and that this is something we'll either find out or we won't. I mean, I guess we'll find out either way, regardless of who takes it. But I'm just so curious, like what is going to happen to that person. Let's say it is
Mhm.
Fern, and obviously things are way different. They're not. It's not an apples to apples comparison, but like the shard with Ashton literally transformed him from whatever race he was, which is still kind of
Mhm.
unclear. Um, to a Genasi. So like if Fern gets this, is she gonna become like part fire Genasi? Um or just like what I mean, undoubtedly it's gonna be a boon in terms of mechanics in some way or another. Um
I think we talked about this previously, or maybe it was in our Discord chat. We talked about it, but we've always assumed it was the crown that created Dark Fern. What if
mm,
it's the shard? What if
ooh,
the shard is step one?
that's true. Mm. Yeah, so
I'm just trying to
I'm
hold it
just
as long as I
curious,
can.
man. And if it is if it is Ashton that takes it, then that and I still think it would be a boon, all yada yada yada, all that aside. I think that narratively it kind of just would make sense that that would be maybe the only thing that's absorbed across Bell's house, like with the harness. But if it's Fern that does it, now it kind of feels like what else could Chetney go absorb, type of thing. Like it
Mm.
feels more like this could be a thing that we go power up everybody with, which there isn't really
Well,
any like there's nothing else even on the radar really, at least that I can think
yeah.
of that they would go zap. So I guess what I'm getting at is, do you think, I guess regardless of who takes it, will there be anything else that they try to use this harness for, or is it just this?
I mean, this is maybe a big reach, but if Fern absorbs it, she would now be a Fae of incredible power. Would lewdness have the
Try to
motive?
absorb her.
Yeah.
I mean,
Who knows,
Maybe.
man? It's like Cell from DBZ. Who knows?
Yeah.
I've been waiting. I don't know.
I mean,
So
we've had. I won't get into this whole conversation again because we've had it many times. But the whole like the clock's kind of ticking. How much time do they really have? If they do have more time than less, then a kind of harness power up arc could be the next thing that we get.
yeah.
But it may just be Fern Ashton takes this. We're in Whitestone. Everybody gets caught up to speed. It's like, here are the next in game moves we're making. Let's go to the Bloody Bridge. So I'm not, and I imagine we'll get some info, hopefully, on some sort of time frame once we get all caught up with the news at Whitestone, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to see in their description when they were talking with the dancer and whoever
Imahara Joe?
yeah, if there was a dialogue around if it would need to be attuned to, because they were talking about like the nature of it. But it would be interesting if it would need to be attuned to, and I don't know if it does or not.
The harness itself, you mean?
Right, yeah. Right. Because I think that would dictate what they do next, or what that looks like at least.
Well, even if it had to be attuned to, it's not like you would have to wear it permanently, or maybe you would.
I don't know. I mean, the attunement could literally be whatever Matt wants it to be, you know. So, I don't know. Maybe it puts her in a coma for 3 days, and it's, I don't know. I can't find anything on it, so maybe it wasn't even specified. Okay, so a big episode Thursday then.
Yeah, back to Whitestone, which I'm excited because, last time we were there, it was, at least as far as the world was concerned, it was kind of just normal day. But now so much has happened that I feel like it's at least possible that maybe we could see some faces in Whitestone this time, some cameos that maybe like if the troops are gathering. So it would be cool to see some faces that we haven't seen yet.
I bet we're gonna see Vax.
Probably not him.
I just don't put it together.
Although it would be cool, like we're about to get the Mighty Nine Solstice one shot. I really don't see this happening, at least anytime soon. But it would be cool if there was like a Vox Machina one shot to go save Vax out of the Malleus key.
That would be cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in any case, you would think the troops have been alerted. Maybe they're not gathering in Whitestone like that much. Who knows? Maybe that doesn't make sense logistically, but it's at least possible. So could we see some friends?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rocco.
Okay. Well,
let me do my last quick glance, but I think we hit the stuff I wanted to talk about. Yeah. All right. Think I'm good to go.
Alrighty. Well, don't forget, y'all, we got our watch party this Thursday. Obviously, any thoughts or theories you have, you can just drop them in the comments of this YouTube video as well. And we'll be watching Thursday's ep. So join the Discord, feel free to chat with us. And I think that's all we got.
Alrighty, y'all. Till next time.